I agree, Marianne for president. That would be so exciting. And I don't know if you know this, but she ran for Congress in California, and I think it's time for her to do it again. So. It's wonderful to be here with you this morning. I am the president of a seminary, so I have permission to be a little bit nerdy in the comments I make. So I'm going to make some really nerdy comments about women and faith and spirituality. There's 5 of them, and I think that they hold together in a way that makes very clear a case that all of us together need to hold in our heart when we think about these issues. First of all, we heard yesterday and last night, all you have to do is turn on the news and hear the list of the major crises and catastrophes that our world experiences today, from climate change and war, to refugee camps and starvation, to rape, to intimate violence, and the list goes on. The fact of the matter is that in each of these situations, women and girls experience what's called disparate impact. It affects their bodies and their lives at a rate unparalleled with the impact that it has on male bodies. So every issue that is a political issue globally is an issue that is a women's issue. Secondly, when it comes to the religions of the world, women make up the vast majority of the actual participants in religious communities. Some estimate it's about 80%. So why is it that women still represent less than 1% of the leadership of our major world religions and spiritual communities? A lot of this has to do with how women do their work. If you were to look at the labor that is expended on a daily basis to make this planet run, the vast majority of that labor is labor done by women, but it never enters into the economy and it is never counted. It is the labor of care. It is tending to the sick and the elderly. It is the labor of education. It's the process by which our children learn our religious values. It is the activities of producing and putting food on the table and cleaning our homes and building our homes and doing the work that keeps the planet going. And for the vast majority of women in the world, this labor, called subsistence labor, is inflected, is saturated with their faith. They do it for faith reasons in terms of how faith is embodied and practiced. That's where faith lives in women's lives, not in some abstracted set of doctrines, which oftentimes when we think about religions in the world or faith communities, we think about, well, what do they believe? If you want to know what they believe, look at what the women are doing in their daily life practices. And a big change that has to take place globally for women to begin as religious actors to exert their will on the political scene is for us to recognize this as a form of political agency. Every day we are making the world go, and every day without our work it could not happen, and that work is flake infected. So what does it mean for us to build and create and come together around a political movement that is deeply religious? I want to say one last thing, and that is the question of why then is it so difficult for women to rise to levels of religious leadership? Marianne said it well, our religious traditions do not have such a good scorecard when it comes to their position on women. It was wonderful to have Pope Francis here 2 weeks ago and to hear his amazing statements about poverty, wealth inequality, climate change, and the list goes on. But just taking the Catholic Church as one example, as long as we have at the center of that community a theology that asserts that only men, because of their bodies, because Jesus was a man, only men can hold the most sacred office, it's not going to change. And that's a sobering reality to come to grips with. And so why does it continue? I think in the context of faith and spiritual communities, we need to look again at the levels of intimate violence that happen inside homes, that happen inside our friendships, inside our families. Violence done to women, oftentimes by men, be it in the form of verbal bullying all the way to sexual assault, but also intimate violence done to women by other women. It's the way in which, as Marianne described, we attend to the interior world in which we inhabit. If that interior world of one's self-conception and faith is battered and bruised, then it's very hard to become a political actor capable of engaging the world in these much-needed processes of change. So it's a glorious thing for this room to be filled with those religious, spiritual, political, economic actors that all of us are, and to keep working towards those processes of change that have the capacity to rethink the world as we know it to now. As my favorite poet, Christopher Fry, says, "Today the affairs before us are soul-sized. And never before has a generation had the capacity or opportunity to take on those issues. Now, I'm known as the crying president, I cry. Now is the time. Soul-sized movements." Thank you.